Buonasera, buonasera a tutti, buonasera a voi a casa, buonasera a voi in sala. Hjertelig velkommen til dette strømmete arrangementet. Nå vi tilbake til strømming i disse tider, men det jo strålende at vi faktisk har denne muligheten. Veldig hyggelig at vi kunne likevel feire denne dagen. Altså, arrangementet i anledning noe som kalles den italienske dagen for samtidskunst, som i år i sin 17. utgave, og et initiativ fra det italienske utenriksdepartementet, og har som formål da selvfølgelig å fremme italiensk samtidskunst. De pleier å ha forskjellige temaer. Årets tema performativ kunst, og da kommer vi inn på kveldens gjester. Fordi kuratorduoen som vi har invitert i kveld, Francesco Urbano Ragazzi, jobber mye med dette. Og ikke minst så har vi invitert dem for de blant mange andre kunstnere ble valgt ut til å være hovedkuratorer for neste års utgave av LIAF, Lofoten International Art Festival. Det synes vi selvfølgelig veldig stas at det et så tett samarbeid mellom italiensk samtidskunstarena og norsk samtidskunstarena. Så vi veldig glade for at de kunne troppe opp her i Oslo. De faktisk fysisk her i Oslo sammen med oss. Duoen har jobbet i mange år. De begynte allerede i 2008 og har bakgrunn i filosofi og kjønns- og mediestudier, og har opp gjennom årene skaffet seg ikke bare et nasjonalt, men selvfølgelig også da et internasjonalt ry. I de senere årene har de jobbet blant annet med forskningsprosjektet og utstillingsserien som de har kalt The Internet Saga. De har hatt flere prosjekter som blitt vist på selveste Venezia biennalen. De har også skapt nye kunstverk i samarbeid med private og offentlige institusjoner som European Organization for Nuclear Research eller biennalen i Bucuresti eller Maria Art Center, bare for å nevne noe. For noen år tilbake så etablerte de et nært og tett samarbeid med den nå dessverre avdøde kunstneren Jonas Mekas. Sammen så kuraterte de utstillinger, publikasjoner og filmfremvisninger i en rekke land. I en årrekke så har også Francesco Urbano Ragazzi prosjekter og utstillinger som de har holdt for blant annet italienske departementet for likestilling, for Missioni i New York, for Centro Ricerca Castello di Ripoli, og så videre. Jeg kunne nevne mange både nasjonale og internasjonale kunstscener og andre institusjoner og organisasjoner. I kveld så har vi det her, for de skal snakke spesielt da om performance og det å være performativ i dag. Ikke minst så skal de snakke om noen tanker om hva de har tenkt å gjøre på neste års LIAF, altså Lofoten International Festival. Og de har også med seg noen kunstverk av et par andre italienske samtidskunstnere, som også de skal ta med seg til LIAF til neste år. Og det altså et samarbeidsprosjekt de har gjort sammen med kunstneren Tommaso De Luca, og som de har laget en film sammen med. Og så skal vi også vise en film til prosjektet til Raffaella Naldi Rossano. Dette skal vi få høre mer om etter hvert, som de selv skal fortelle om. So, thank you, Francesco Urbano Ragazzi. Thank you so much for coming here today to Oslo. You made it. That's incredible in these times. And we're so happy to have you here. And we are so happy that you're going to curate the next year's LIAF. That's a little bit honor for us to have you here. So I think I just will give you the word now and the floor, and you will tell something about yourself and something about what you will do maybe at the next year's LIAF, and you will also introduce the works of Tommaso De Luca, which you made together with him, and also the work of Raffaele Naldi Rosano. We will finish the whole evening with the video you made together with Tommaso, so that the audience also know that. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the public also in the here at the Institute and home in the whole of Norway. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure to be here. We are very happy to see, anyway, some people here live in flesh and blood. Even if we will be ubiquitous in this event. And somehow ubiquity is also part of our nature. We are Francesco Urbano Ragazzi. We are a curatorial team, a curatorial duo. And in around 2008, we decided to merge our name and family names together in order to be one and the same entity, one and the same person, in order to experiment ubiquity. But ubiquity, it's quite a difficult task. This event will be both live here and online. So, and today we have seen how difficult it is to be ubiquitous. But anyway, we will see how it will go. First of all, we would like to thank the Istituto Italiano di Cultura for inviting us, and especially Raffaella Giampaola for this invitation to the 17th Giornata del Contemporaneo. The Giornata del Contemporaneo as a theme, as a topic, it's about this year it's about performance and performativity. So we thought somehow to introduce to you our practice. We have some ideas about what a performance in contemporary age should be, and how to perform even without being present, forcibly present. And it's also the occasion to present LIAF, and we thought also to present two Italian artists, two of the artists who will be part of the next Lofoten International Art Festival, which is going to open hopefully on September 3rd next year, 2022. So LIAF, as you probably know, the Lofoten International Art Festival is the longest running biennial event in the whole Scandinavia, being founded in 1991. So it has 30 years of history, more or less, and we really think that it is nowadays the most important biennial in the world. Why is that? So because of its location, of course. We are at the Lofoten Islands, so right above the polar circle. So we are facing the climate change running in front of our eyes. So we have this privilege, let's say, to see the apocalypse coming from there, if we are not able to solve this problem, of course. But it's not important also for this in this emergency time we are living in. It's important for its very history, because again, for its location, maybe the Lofoten International Art Festival, it was the first biennial to really think about new production models for art, for contemporary art. So in these 30 years of history, from edition to edition, how to produce in a different way a biennial or an exhibition, a contemporary art exhibition, was really a core of the festival. So it's we think a model for all the other biennials, because they started thinking about it from the 90s. And the third thing that we are really interested in is that LIAF, of course, from a Southern European perspective, is described as a remote place. So working on this remoteness give us the chance to think about artworks not in their presence, not in their objectivity, but rather as tools for creating narrations that can overcome their own objectivity. So we think that we don't like the word remoteness. It's maybe exoticizing the north and north from a southern perspective. So we prefer to use the term projectivity. So the idea that the artworks can be somehow tools for projecting narrations outside of themselves and of the biennial itself.
And it's under this lens that we want to embrace it, and to think about the topic that we are invited to discuss tonight, which is the performativity, or the performative. And we thought that it's something that some way we are re-articulating or rediscussing to our practice, and avoiding a certain fetishism related to the presence, or to the idea of presence, or idea of liveness. There was a certain rhetoric also in these times about having the object and the artworks in front of us, that people were missing museums, etc. Yeah, we can miss them, but we can also not miss them and search for other dimensions of artworks. And this is what we are searching for. And we will try together to share this possible vision on artworks. So we were talking about, instead of talking about performances and live acts, we are very interested in performativity in a sense of projectivity, as Francesco was saying, and performativity, projectivity, but also how we can in this very moment we can't. It's evident we are in front of. It's in front of us. We are here, and because this here and now. So this very moment. It's also like here and elsewhere, and the reverberation of this now, or this very now, as like contemporary. Simultaneously, many different stories and narration possible at the same time. So you are experiencing something, something else, and we are all here. This is the humanity that we want some way to portray to our exhibitions. And so it's not just about presence, but it's more about, yes, ubiquity, but also coexistence. And coexistence can be also disconnectivity, disconnection. Talking about this feeling, the first question then comes to my mind, comes to our mind. It's what is real time? What's the real time on the internet, for instance? What's the time in this time? And approaching these topics, we had this idea of starting a new narration called the Internet Saga, which was a platform of research that started
in 2015. It has been an exhibition series, a time-based exhibition series, and we would like to briefly present you 3 chapters of this saga, of this narration, which started in Venice in 2015, and it started with a solo show by Jonas Mekas, the Lithuanian-born filmmaker who founded the New American Cinema Group, the Anthology Film Archives, and really shaped the American avant-garde in cinema. In 2007, in 2006, I'm sorry, he started working on the internet with cinema diaries and online diaries on the internet. He was more than 80 years old at that time, and we were really interested in understanding why he immediately got why an avant-garde filmmaker immediately understood the future of moving images was on the internet. YouTube was founded in 2005, and it started a few months after the launching of YouTube. So we were interested in understanding him and his work, even his analog work, as the godfather of the internet culture. But first of all, let's talk briefly about the name, the Internet Saga. Around 2015, we somehow noted a changing in the language for describing the internet. So let's say until 2010, the internet, or rather 2005, the internet was mainly described through metaphors related to space. So there were virtual spaces, Second Life, one of the first metaverse was anyway a space, the building of a space located on our computer screens. So there was this idea that the internet was a space, but starting from 2005, somehow things started changing, and the internet was described more and more as a time. So first of all, YouTube, the tube is of course a space and architecture, but you need to go through this architecture, so it's an architecture based on time somehow. And then of course Facebook, the idea of reading a book, or the idea of scrolling a timeline, Instagram, so the instant, Twitter, so the tweet is a rhythm, is a sound, so it's again something related to time. So we decided not to present a regular pavilion at the occasion of the Venice Biennale that year in 2015, but rather to present the beginning of saga, the beginning of a time-based narration. And so the Internet Saga happened to be real.
And it was interesting because this show happened in it was the motto of the show was challenging enough to say yes, which was basically the reply by Jonas Mekas to our invitation. And he immediately got the sense of what we were trying to do. And we started working very hardly, very intensively on the exhibition, which happened in this very palazzo in Venice. So it's right in front of the train station. It's called Palazzo Foscari Contarini. And it was the house of the Doge, the Dogal Palace. So a very noble environment. As you can see, this is the Scalzi Bridge, right? The bridge right in front of the Ferrovia, the train station. And then you see the Palazzo. But then, as you can see, the Palazzo, this is Jonas filming from the balcony of the Palazzo, and this is the Palazzo. Welcome to the Internet Saga. And this is how the Palazzo was looking like. So basically, this was a collapse of timing, because you had we were in this Dogal Palace, this Nobel Palace, but also in a fast food restaurant, and we were basically creating a sort of new level of perception into the space. And so, as you can see, we have all over the windows like outtakes from Jonas Mekas films. So this is a reproduction on the windows, like in a sort of cathedral effect of the stills from Jonas Mekas film. And again, and all on the screens which were already on the monitors, which were already in the space, so in the fast food, where normally were broadcast like MTV video clips or MTV or matches of football, etc. We were like projecting films by Jonas Mekas, and they were like the online diaries re-edited for the occasion. So the atmosphere of the space was completely changed, and so the perception of that space was completely turned into something else, into a poetic place, but this without adding any object. So basically, there were just films and films and films all over, like hours and hours of film compressed into a space. But it was interesting because we didn't want. First of all, we didn't work with the company, so we had like a certain autonomy, and we were like adding this level, having in a sort of agreement with the company, but not working with them like advertisement or like in a sort of strategy, a conjunct strategy. So basically, we were having our own show, imposing our own contents and changing completely the atmosphere of that space. And so it was challenging enough. And then, so also of course, the sound of the Jonas Mekas films completely changed how the space was normally running, and this was also in the courtyard there was a sound piece called Tu Petrarca. So basically, the installation was everywhere. And also, this was more or less how people reacted to the show. So it was really a disconnected feeling, because there were people very into the show and someone who was completely indifferent. So from love to indifference, the feelings that were there, they were completely together in a sense of strange togetherness, which is not exactly on the same page.
Yeah, there were two main groups in our audience. Of course, the burger eaters from one side, so people who wanted just to eat their burger and bumped into the exhibition without even knowing maybe who Jonas Mekas was, and then the contemporary art people who on the other side were scared somehow of entering a normal people place like that. So they were not understanding exactly how to behave in order to be just visitors to our exhibition and not customers. So there was this clash sometimes, but for most of the times, people ignored each other as if they were on different timelines. So somehow the exhibition was a materialization of what's happened, what is still happening, and what was happening on the internet and on social media. So everybody was following their own path in their lives and experiencing the exhibition not forcibly as an exhibition, as a show, but more as a piece of their common reality. We would like to quote Fong Bui, who was the director of the Brooklyn Rail, the contemporary art magazine, who in his editorial wrote Jonas Mekas' The Internet Saga, the only Burger King in town, was the most transcendental yet subversive intervention I have seen in recent years. Emerson's philosophy of individualism comes to mind immediately. So from one side, it was right, there was this idea of individualism, of people experiencing the show on their own somehow, disconnected from the other. As you know, performance is always connected not only to presence, but also to participation. In that case, we wanted to create a performative space, so a space where people could perform their role in society and in the art world, but without the presence of the artists and the presence of objects, and also without participating, having the possibility of being disconnected, which is a contemporary luxury, we think, in the 21st century, to be disconnected. And then there is this transcendental idea. Again, hearing, for example, Zuckerberg thinking about the metaverse, thinking about our will of being ubiquitous, we think that the internet somehow incarnates some very archaic human desires, the desire of not feeling the force of gravity, for instance, the desire of being ubiquitous, the desire of being eternal and unchangeable, the desire for being transcendental. And from this desire, we started thinking about the next chapter of the internet saga.
Yeah, and the next chapter was like the saint of the second chapter of the third chapter actually of the internet saga was Cleopatra, who was the entrepreneur who wrote the gambling to the Roman Empire. So and starting from studying the gambling and how gambling has like shaped the internet through certain algorithms, we created a show which was based on it was called Mystical Staircase, and was actually was conceived as a deck for cards. So we actually designed a series of cards that were actually designed by artists. And again, we were thinking about how verticality was entering in our media landscape. And so we invited them to think about vertical images to be experienced on screen as a sort of oracle. And the oracle was online on this platform called the 63rd 77 Steps. And so basically you had the deck with the cards randomized, and you had to choose your card and to bump into a new, a possible reading of a card. So this was basically a normal oracle, but of course, and about verticality. So it's a vertical oracle on the internet. The idea of randomizing and having this personal feeling of related to the perception of the show was actually our filter. So somehow we thought that instead of creating a path like a sort of a list of things to see, we rather prefer to create a personal path for the viewer that was some way more affected, more participating in a very some way personal way, because at the beginning the driving force of the show was to ask to the oracle a reply. So this was even if you don't think you don't trust the oracle, some way your attitude, your feeling is some way influenced by the fact that there is the cards are talking about you and your future.
Yeah, the exhibition was also the occasion to think about how corporations working on the internet are using a language related to transcendental experiences. So in the background, you can see some. We designed the website to hide some references to it. So, for example, we worked on the oracle background. So Oracle is a company working on the internet, but also Windows. So the window is already in the Renaissance was a metaphor for initiations, and so on and so forth. So there are many companies working on the internet somehow decide to use this kind of esoteric language. So it was interesting for us to design the website in order to hint at this kind of language.
And then, of course, the randomization of cards were already linked to the gambling, as I was saying before. And here you just see some like screenshots, but these are mostly videos. So you can still experience the website, and once we will also have possibly another lecture with an oracle, because we also do this kind of event. So we will read the oracle to people in some occasions. And
then we decided to go back to Venice in 2019, and this time we decided to gently occupy another very ambiguous space, which is located in Strada Nuova, one of the main streets and one of the newest streets in the Venice main island. So here you can see the facade of Teatro Italia, so Italian theater, let's say. So Teatro Italia appears as a building that looks like the Cadoro somehow, so a Venetian Gothic building somehow. And in fact, many tourists stop themselves there in order to take pictures to this beautiful building. But this building was built in 1916, so during World War I. And it's the beginning, let's say, of Venice becoming the fake version of itself, the touristic version of itself. So a theater impresario decided to build this building that looks like the Cadoro, but it's the first building in concrete. So the structure of the building is in concrete to ever been built in Venice. It was a cinema theater. Inside this theater there are frescoes. This is how it looked like, let's say, at the beginning of the century. And then the Ca' Foscari University, it was a red light cinema for a short time, and then the Ca' Foscari University rented the space and covered all the frescoes in order to have classes inside those spaces. And then, again, a private company decided to acquire the building, which now looks like in this image. And so the Cinema Teatro Italia is now has been transformed since 2016 into a supermarket. And we decided to occupy the balcony, the former balcony of the cinema theater, which is looking at the supermarket from the above.
So here you are looking at the supermarket, of course, but it's also a view on the show, because we were actually reactivating the old screen, which were at the very end of the building. And also we activated these three parts, which are on the top on the shelves, which are called gondolas, strangely enough, and with some names. These are names from an archive called UbuWeb that you probably know, that was founded by Kenneth Goldsmith, who was the artist we invited in this occasion show. And what we showed were the Hillary Clinton emails. So we basically built up on the top of the supermarket, so on that balcony, we built a White House. So you can see like here the carpets, the oval carpets, and the flags, and the rest of the desk, and 60,000 emails, which were printed and in a sort of sculptural version, which is on the rest of the desk. And these are all the emails that Hillary Clinton shared from her own private account, and were like at the center of what we call the email gate. So these emails were processed by the national security. So they became like some way public, and then WikiLeaks tried to archive all of them and make them like searchable. And then finally, Kenneth Goldsmith decided to print all of them to make them like physical. And this is part of this, one part of the installation, so a sort of modernist cube. And
yeah,
then
his idea was to transform these documents, which shaped a specific time in American history, and he wanted to transform these documents into poetry, so to free somehow these documents from the political charge they have, and to make them a piece of literature, a monument dedicated to Hillary Clinton.
And this poem was also readable, so we created a second version with Kenneth, which was like a sort of library-like installation, which was readable. So you had like many volumes of the emails that were like in a sort of library, which again was inspired by the environments of the White House. It's a sort of synthetic White House, or some way a lo-fi White House. And then this place became a sort of, I would say, a sort of public White House. So we created a program open to the public right on the top of this supermarket. So the market was still running, and we were on the top of them, like working and sometimes being voyeuristic on the supermarket, and having like very parallel lives. We had many strange events. So at some point we had a meeting with Rose McGowan, the initiator of the Me Too movement. Then they came also from New York, our friends Leah Singer and Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth. And then we had like a very academic series of lectures in one of the rooms with like about Wittgenstein and ready-made. And then we had Paul B. Preciado, who came for a lecture, which was like very intense, and it was like really superimposing itself on the supermarket life. So the market was open until night, and we were like having this conversation on the balcony. And then at some point we had like also the cinema going on. So we had like a 35 hours film program. And as I was saying before, on the top of the shelves, there were the names of the artists who were part of this archive called the Web, and which is like a pirate archive that became an institution for moving images.
Yeah, the idea was to, we conceived the Teatro Italia space as a trans space, a space in transition, and we wanted to let all its former identities coexist together. So we reactivated the university through the classes and the workshops. We reactivated the cinema through the screenings, etc., etc. But we also let the supermarket, so the identity that the building has right now, active. So we really wanted all these identities coexist all together. And again, it's about this is about performativity rather than performance, because somehow the audience is called to set themselves in a specific position, or to decide how to behave in this space, and to decide what kind of space is this space for them. And somehow we wanted to create a trap for reality to happen, and reality happened. So at a certain point in September, we were contacted informally by someone in the entourage of Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton manifested herself in Fashion Blood in order to read her printed emails. And again, this is a presence, maybe, but it has a lot to do with narration and reverberation, because of course the event was somehow narrated by the international press, so it became a news story seen from different angles. Of course, according to the political side, a specific newspaper wanted to locate itself. And again, it was an ambiguous performance, if it ever was a performance, in the sense that we intended the presence of Hillary Clinton reading her email as a contemporary art performance. But probably Hillary Clinton perceived the exhibition as an occasion to make a point about her political position, about her emails, about the scandal that made her lose the elections in 2016. So again, one very event was impossible to define, impossible to decide. There was at least two ways of narrating the same presence, the same event. One last thing we would like to say before presenting to you the work of Raffaella Naldi Rossano and Tommaso De Luca is somehow the one topic that really unifies the three chapters of the Internet saga together. As you can see, we decided to occupy three real spaces, three spaces of reality, and this is a sort of statement to us. It tells what we think art is. We think that art is the institution of itself, and it's not an object included in an institution, but really is an institution. In which sense artworks often make their own rules. Good artworks set rules from themselves to exist in a specific and peculiar way. So artworks are able to institute themselves, and we think that art is able to institute itself wherever it wants, so in every kind of space, even before institutions were invented. As you know, until the 17th century, we didn't need museums, we didn't need galleries for art to exist. So our question, if it's still possible to make art exist side by side with reality as one part of reality, as reality itself, as a second reality, as a mirage of reality.
Yeah, and talking about coming back to LIAF, it's very interesting how we are meeting some way the identity of LIAF, which is based on searching always new venues, and also discussing the very notion of artworks into a very peculiar context. This was to us a very challenging enough to say yes and to embrace the challenge. And again, it's talking about projectivity. We want to share with you some notes from some processes that we are like discussing and orienting and working on with two artists. So some way now we will go to the we will see some intentions that we have, some like embryonal works, seminal works that we want to share. We are in a sort of studio sharing the ideas. And first of all, we will see Raffaele Analdi Lozano. I don't know if I have to. So Raffaele Analdi Lozano presents some visual notes on a journey that from her town, Naples, will take her to lap the coasts of Greece and Norway to finally land to Lofoten Islands. It is a rite of initiation that gathers together a group of travel companions. A female chorus crosses the coastal space and penetrates it, finding its own common frequency. A new form of communication with the terrestrial and marine ecosystem, a sense of intimacy and family with other bodies and species. Raffaele Analdi Lozano, born in 1990, lives and works in Naples. Through the activation of transformative processes, she engages in the investigation of new possible relationships and forms of intimacy, care and revelation. In her grandmother's home in Naples, in 2017, she established Residency 8121, an ongoing renovation and transformative space project to host to inhabit the space and to create alternative ways of being together. Among Raffaele Analdi Lozano's recent exhibition, Utopia Dystopia at Madre Napoli, the 2020 edition of Quadriennale in Rome, There is no time to enjoy the sun at Fondazione Morra Greco, Naples, Wave Between Us at Fondazione San Ettore Rebodengo, I Confess, curated by Chu Martinez, Der Funk Basel, Doing the Culturalization at Museum Bolzano, and many others.
Ciao Partenope. Ci sono i pirati. Andiamo. Vai piano, vai piano, vai piano.
I'm alive. We are alive. For all the goddesses of land and sea, the sirens, the witches, the grandmothers, I pray. We pray for the sounds buried by the fathers. These sounds are now alive. I'm alive. We are alive. For all the goddesses of land and sea, the sirens, the witches, the grandmothers.
The destruction of the self is happening because of an impossibility of breathing. Humans cannot breathe underwater and on air. We are transforming into the all. We are the sea, the air, the land. We are the sky. We are the goddesses. It don't matter if we die. We are all.
So the second intervention we are going to present, maybe some light, is by Tommaso De Luca. Tommaso De Luca is a visual artist who lives and works in Berlin now. Tommaso employs drawing, sculpture, installation, and video practices to expose what is buried in the collective imagery. His works stand as defections to the modernist canon, representing active survival strategies against isolation. His work has been exhibited at Quadriennale di Roma 2020, Contemporary Art Center in Vilnius, Parque Lage, Rio de Janeiro, Fondazione Sandretto Re de Baudengo in Turin, among many, many others. In 2013, he was among the finalists of the 9th Furla Prize, and in 2017, he was a Cy Twombly Fellow at the American Academy in Rome. In 2021, his work, A Week's Notice, won the second edition of the Maxi Bulgari Prize. This second intervention we are going to present is entitled Ballad of Delights, a 6-handed lecture performance in which Tommaso De Luca and we will stage a dialogue in a chat that takes the form of a VJing. So stories, reflections, notes, links and fragments of an open discourse are composed live on the screen, were supposed to be composed live on the screen, making the personal flow a space of collective vision.
Sometimes I might be gay, Maria man and the name is Ricky. From last month, him a go like him crazy. Come woman in time after 7:30. When the sun a shine and the neighbor them I see. Get me so vexed and it get me so happy. Get good again, mad again, we get now. We get can't say listen to me now. You don't know that to become early. And when you try to do with this situation, sometimes I'm at the end, sometimes I'm at the end, sometimes I'm
It's the end of January 2019, and I'm in the dark room of a club with my friend Sasha. There's a party of some sort, and a short, blonde drag queen starts talking to me. She's very friendly, but her thick British accent is incredibly hard for me to understand. I gather that she's from Sussex and she's been living in Berlin for quite some time. I tell her about my broken boiler, about the coal stoves and how I learned to operate them, about the syphilis I contracted when I moved here. She replies, "You're living your Industrial Revolution fantasy, babe." At least there's penicillin, I think. She tells me she's in the process of writing a musical called Sublet. It's like Rent, the undeniably more famous Broadway musical, but since you can't even rent anymore nowadays, the new title seems more appropriate. You can't rent in Berlin, or anywhere else, to be honest. She sings the opening act directly to my face. She finishes and decides to bow down before me, waiting for the applause. I clap as hard as I can, embarrassed, because I couldn't understand a single word. HIV-positive woman in rural KwaZulu-Natal, ostracized by her neighbors, built a teen salvage shack in the bush for her husband, who is dying of AIDS. Here, in a zone of exclusion and erasure, bare life affirms the relationship that connects it to the minimal dignity of a socially meaningful existence. In the shadow of the social death inflicted on many AIDS patients, the will to reaffirm visibility, dignity, kinship, and ties in general is at the center of daily survival. Central to the call for recognition due to patients is the insistence on a positive life, imbued with expectations that are as ordinary as they are future-oriented. This is too a reaction to naked death. takes me further from heaven. Is there a heaven? I'd like to think so. Standards of living, they're rising daily. But home, oh sweet home, it's only a saying. We cannot help but notice that the penguins, as they stare at their cage to be, pondering the architectural destiny of a modern animal, mirror, in some darkly comedic fashion, the shapes and lines of the architectural model with their black and white bodies, their pointed beaks. In this observation, we find ourselves both moved and frightened by the sight of the condemned standing watch over the prison, the mysterious machine that will soon be the entirety of their ward. And for a moment, we almost believe that they themselves are the architects of this reality, the designers of their own trap. Here, in this moment, the threat dissipates, the horror recedes. Suddenly the penguins and the machine are one, and now, only now, we can sleep gently into that modernist nest and allow ourselves to finally dream of a bright and glorious future.